It's 2 a.m. My backyard smells like a lightning strike. Inside a gutted microwave, a ball of purple fire is floating in the air. It isn't touching anything. It just hangs there, humming. And underneath it, something is growing. Something that normally takes the Earth 1 billion years to make. I'm trying to make it in 6 days. And if I got the recipe even slightly wrong, this box doesn't make a diamond. It becomes a bomb. Let me back up. 3 weeks ago, a jeweler laughed at me. I'd asked him a simple question. Can you actually tell a lab diamond from a real one? He smiled the way people smile when they're lying. He said, "Son, a trained eye always knows." He was wrong, and I was about to spend 6 days and almost my eyebrows proving it. Because here's the thing nobody says out loud. A diamond is not special. A diamond is just carbon. The same carbon in pencil lead. The same carbon in the burnt toast you scraped this morning. The only difference between a $10,000 ring and a smudge on your finger is how the atoms are stacked. Squeeze carbon hard enough, heat it right, and the atoms lock into a perfect lattice. That lattice is the hardest natural material on Earth. So the real question was never, is it possible? It was, how cheap can I go? And that's when I found the trick that the diamond industry really doesn't want you thinking about. There are 2 ways to grow a diamond. The first is brute force. Crush carbon at pressures that would flatten a car at temperatures hotter than lava. I can't do that in a lawn chair. But the second way? The second way is almost gentle. It's called vapor deposition. You take a tiny diamond seed. You surround it with a carbon-rich gas. Then you rip that gas apart with energy until the carbon atoms come raining down. They land on the seed, one atomic layer at a time. The diamond grows itself, and the energy source the real labs use to tear that gas apart? Microwaves. The exact same waves reheating your leftover pizza. I stared at my kitchen microwave for a long time that night because I realized the machine that grows million-dollar diamonds was sitting on my counter warming up a burrito. But there was a catch. One ingredient I couldn't just buy at a hardware store. And without it, everything I built would be worthless black dust. I'll tell you what that ingredient was in a second. First, you need to understand why this is so dangerous. A microwave doesn't make heat. It makes waves. And behind those waves is a part called a capacitor. That capacitor holds a charge that stays lethal even after you unplug the machine. Not shock you, lethal. Stop your heart in the driveway, lethal. People who restore microwaves talk about it like handling a snake. You keep one hand behind your back the entire time. So that one wrong move doesn't become the last thing you ever do. I gutted mine anyway. I pulled the magnetron. I isolated the part that makes the waves. And on my very first test, before I'd even added the gas, I made a mistake. I left a screw inside the chamber. I hit the power, and the whole backyard flashed white. The screw had arced. A jet of sparks shot sideways and scorched a black streak across my fence. The smell hit next, ozone and burnt metal. My ears were ringing. For a second, I genuinely thought I'd blinded myself. I hadn't, but I sat on the concrete for 10 minutes, just breathing. That flash taught me the rule that saved the whole project. Inside that chamber, anything with a sharp edge becomes a lightning rod. Metal is the enemy. The only thing allowed in there is the gas, the seed, and the fire. Which brings me back to that missing ingredient, the seed. You cannot grow a diamond from nothing. You need an existing sliver of diamond for the carbon to build on, a starting point, a skeleton, and a real seed crystal is a controlled, expensive little thing. So I did something that felt almost like cheating. I bought a scrap, a chipped, flawed, industrial diamond fragment, the kind they use on cheap drill bits, worthless to a jeweler, perfect for a god. I placed the seed in the chamber. I fed in a whisper of carbon gas. I sealed it. And then I turned it on and let the fire begin. The plasma bloomed instantly. That floating purple ball I told you about. It's a cloud of gas torn into glowing pieces, hot as the surface of the sun, hovering right above my little seed. And then I had to do the hardest part of all. Wait. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing I could see. Day 3, I couldn't take it, and I shut it down early to look. And my heart dropped through the floor. The seed was black. Ugly, dull, crusted black. I was sure I'd failed. I was sure I'd just made a lump of graphite. 6 days of risking my life for a piece of pencil. I almost threw it in the trash right there. Something stopped me. I wiped it. And under the black crust, a corner caught the porch light. It flashed, not a dull shine, a hard, cold, impossible flash. The black was just soot on the surface. Underneath, the crystal had grown. My scrap seed was visibly bigger, wrapped in a new skin of carbon that I had made from thin air and lightning. But growing something shiny isn't proof. Cubic zirconia is shiny. Glass is shiny. I needed the truth. So I ran the tests that don't care about opinions. First, hardness. A real diamond scratches everything and is scratched by nothing. I dragged it across a sheet of hardened glass. It carved through it like the glass was butter. Then the real one. A diamond tester. It doesn't measure sparkle. It measures how fast heat races through the crystal. Diamond moves heat faster than almost anything on Earth. Fakes can't cheat that. I pressed the probe to my ugly little backyard rock, and it screamed. Green light, positive, diamond. So I drove back to the jeweler, the one who laughed. I didn't tell him where it came from. I just put it on the black felt and asked him to look. He pulled out his loupe. He turned it in the light. He nodded slowly, like a man who knows things, and he said, "Yeah, that's a real diamond. Nice little stone." I asked him if he was sure. He said, "A trained eye always knows." I didn't correct him. I just thanked him and left. Because here's what I finally understood. Driving home with a diamond, I grew next to my garden hose. The Earth spent 1 billion years and unimaginable pressure and the weight of an entire planet making something we decided was priceless. And I copied it in 6 days with a broken microwave and a hardware store scrap. The stone in my pocket was not a fake. It was chemically, atomically, perfectly real. That's the part that should keep you up at night. Not that we can fake the rarest things, but that the rarest things were never rare. We just agreed not to look too closely.